Several weeks ago, Paul Bunyan, well-known lumberman of northern Wisconsin, came upon a strange animal whiffling about in a patch of seventh-growth timber. The lumberman was leading his big blue ox through the wood, when suddenly he saw the beast, quietly browsing on truffles. It had a cow's horns, a calf's hide, iron claws, and its back was equipped with a row of bony spines, Bunyan said. In spite of its ferocious appearance, it was quite docile, and followed me readily after I had fed it a handful of amanitas. I believe that it is a bandersnatch, or, at any rate, a member of that family. The prior text came with this photo, and both were published in the Paper Trade Journal, August 2nd, 1923. According to the article, the New York Tribune classified the creature pictured as a whiffenpoof, while others dubbed the animal a living Baluchitherium. Of course, as you may have guessed, this fearsome critter is neither a bandersnatch, nor whiffenpoof, nor Baluchitherium. As a certain judge, A. H. Reed, explains, the picture is not of a whiffenpoof at all, but of a black hodag. The whiffenpoof is quite a different animal. The only hodag that was ever held in captivity was owned by Eugene S. Shepard of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. This hodag once escaped, and I have seen an authentic photograph of his recapture by a posse of the most prominent citizens of Rhinelander. It is a well-established fact that Shepard captured his hodag on Section 37, Township 41, Range 11. Interestingly, the image which Reed is referencing does indeed exist. This colorized image depicts the capture of the black hodag, bovine spiritualis, by its captorer, timber cruiser Eugene S. Shepard, who can be seen to the far right. Naturally, it is this fabulous beast that will be the subject of today's study. Welcome, travelers of the Hollow Woods. I'm Linwood S. Sharp, Director of Lumberwoods Unnatural History Museum, and please do join me for an overview of that most remarkable creature, the hodag. As some of you may already know, hodag is a large and voracious animal purported to live chiefly around the vicinity of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Common attributes of the hodag are its ox-like head, bovine horns, long arched claws, prominent carnivorous teeth, 4 short legs, a row of curved spines all along its back, and a powerful, dinosaur-like tail with a hook at the end. Of all fearsome critters, the hodag is among, if not the most feared. The hodag was purported to have been captured by Eugene S. Shepard back in 1893. The recapture, aforementioned, was said to have occurred around 1895. The details of the hodag's origin and capture is a fascinating story. A full account, which can be found in 1928's The Hodag and Other Tales of the Logging Camps by Lakeshore Kearney. Kearney relates that oxen used to pull logging sleds led a harsh and burdensome existence. Often such animals were the brunt of much abuse by the teamsters who drove them. Years of suffering, harsh work, obscenities, and punishment took a toll on these poor animals. All the while, the abuse they suffered would accumulate within the bodies of the oxen. When an ox died, it would be cremated, as was the custom. Kearney stresses that it took 7 years of continuous fire to rid the ox's corpse of the profanity trapped inside it. But to those oxen that led an especially rough and difficult existence, legend tells it is out of those ashes that was born a ferocious monster, the embodiment of the overwork and maltreatment the oxen had suffered in life at the hands of their cruel masters. This monster was, of course, the Hodag. As elaborated, the legacy of the Hodag is chiefly remembered today for the subject of the hoax perpetrated by Eugene S. Shepard. Shepard cleverly created photos of the monster and even made a tidy profit by charging admission to see his captive monster, albeit in dim lighting. Shepard's actions, however, are to be commended, as his efforts, while somewhat deceptive, helped to bring much-needed tourism and revenue to the county, which had suffered financially due to the decline of logging in the area. The city of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, has since erected an enormous statue in the creature's honor, located in front of the Chamber of Commerce. Likewise, the Hodag also features prominently on the city's seal and in the motto, Home of the Hodag. But no matter what corner one turns, in Rhinelander, the horned beast rears its head as the official mascot of local cafes, athletic teams, utility services, clubs, car dealerships, you name it. But by far the Hodag's most significant contribution to the local economy occurs once every year in an outdoor extravaganza held in its honor. The Hodag Country Festival is by no means an isolated or modest venture. This country music festival has been running 40 years each July and has featured such A-list musicians as Conway Twitty, Stella Pardon, Reba McEntire, George Jones, Kenny Rogers, George Strait, and many more. As a topic, the Hodag is well discussed among fearsome critters, featuring in several of the top sources on the subject. However, perhaps the most notable differences occur between the Hodag as depicted in 1910's Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods by William T. Cox, and virtually any account such as 1939's Fearsome Critters by Henry H. Tryon. The Hodag in Tryon and Kearney's account conforms more or less to the standard depiction of Shepard's Black Hodag. Typically, the only real difference one will find between Hodag accounts is that the creature's diet differs. Kearney says that the Hodag eats blue mud. The account attributed to Paul Bunyan says truffles, while Shepard himself contended that the Hodag ate white bulldogs, but only on Sundays, although Tryon did reveal the Hodag's only mortal weakness, of all things, lemons. However, in Cox's book, the Hodag is described as about the size of a rhinoceros, covered in patterns suggestive of Mackinaw clothing, i.e. buffalo plaid. Here there are no horns or spines. Instead, this Hodag, Nasobatellus hystravoratus, has a spade-shaped appendage at the end of its nose, used for uplifting trees containing porcupine, its favorite food. Although Cox does acknowledge the existence of the classic Black Hodag depiction. Now, why is this? We tend to take for granted that many of our conceptions of fantastical creatures have become standardized, like the classic dragon or unicorn. But what we often forget is that these depictions were hundreds of years in the making. Consequently, these are the products of multiple stories over time being rolled into one. The really interesting thing about Fearsome Critters is being a relatively young tradition, we can more clearly see the steps a story took to becoming what it is today. Likely, Cox's shovel-nosed Hodag is a pre-Shepherd depiction of the Hodag, after which Shepherd's black Hodag became the accepted standard. Still, there is one last depiction I wish to touch on briefly. These accounts come not from Rhinelander, nor Wisconsin, nor even the Lake States. At least 2 stories were published in Arizona around 1913, reported from an area known as Bloody Basin. One account purports the existence of a side hell Hodag. While not mentioned in detail, this is presumably a Hodag similar to the well-known fearsome critter, the side hell gouger. The side hell gouger is an animal with legs on its left, longer than those on its right, affording it perfect balance along hillsides. However, the animal is also trapped in a circular path, moving only in this direction until it dies. The side hell Hodag is mentioned as a howling creature that preys upon cattle. The side hell Hodag lives in cleft holes, where winged snakes also reside. Moreover, a separate account speaks of a cousin to the side hell Hodags called hellside geysers. While it is said that it is difficult to tell the two apart, however, the geysers, which prey upon people, have legs slightly taller than their counterpart, so much so that they start to move slightly uphill. Consequently, all the person has to do is move downhill in the hope to evade them. At first glance, the story of the Hodag might just as well be disregarded as another tall tale. Yet beneath the surface, the Hodag serves as a sort of omen. In the same way, a boogeyman might be used to frighten children to more commendable conduct. The Hodag is a forewarning against animal abuse. Moreover, the Hodag is Mother Nature's revenge towards those who wrought unfair punishment or cruelty upon its creatures. But just as well, the Hodag is a catalyst for civic pride. The Hodag is a symbol championing a sense of shared identity among the community of Rhinelander, bringing it all the more closer as a whole. And so, this has been Linwood S. Sharp with Lumberwoods. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for future content. Until we meet again, Carpe Noctem, travelers.